Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ghost. We're on chapter 5. It's on page 76. And when we left off, Ghost kind of embarrassed himself at a practice. He fell down, felt like everybody was looking. And then he went home and made what seems like a very weird choice, which is to take some scissors to his sneakers. Chapter 5 is called World Record for the Most Runaways in a Single Day. I wonder if doctors ever cut off somebody's arm or leg and afterwards realized they made a huge mistake. Totally blew it. Because that's definitely how I felt about low topping my high tops, but not until I got to school the next day. I was cool with my new shoes when I first did it. Walked around the house, totally hype about how much lighter they were, which would definitely help me out on the track. But when I heard my mom at the door, I took them off and quick threw them in my room. I didn't think she would notice that I cut my shoes in half because she was usually so beat when she got home she never noticed anything but the couch. But still, I wanted to play it safe just in case she was in a bad mood and saw that I pretty much just threw half the money she paid for those sneakers in the trash, buried under styrofoam to-go containers, all streaky and stinky with brown gravy and French dressing. She probably would have flipped out, and knowing her, would have made me get the glue and needle and thread and staplers and some tape and made me try to fix them, all while giving me a speech about the value of $1. And that would have been even worse than her yelling at me or punishing me. Shoot, maybe even worse than the ladders. I was even still good with the shoes the next morning, which I was really happy about because a lot of times when you sleep on something, your sleep for some reason causes your mind to change. I don't know why, but it does. But when I woke up the next morning, wrapped in my blankets on my living room floor, I opened my bedroom door, peeked at my shoes as if they might have come to life in the middle of the night, and thankfully was still all right with them. Even after I got dressed and put them on, I wasn't too worried because my jeans came down long enough to cover the raggedy top and make them look regular. What wasn't okay, though, were my legs. They felt like they had been cut off in my sleep, stuffed with dynamite and hot peppers, and then reattached. So even though my shoes were covered, I couldn't hide the fact that I was walking like a senior citizen zombie, which I feared would draw unnecessary attention, the last thing I needed. When I got to school, first I looked around for Brandon Simmons. But he was nowhere to be found. The only reason I was checking for him was because he could always sniff out stuff like raggedy shoes or whatever. Not that he would have tried me 2 days in a row. If he did, he would have won because my legs were barely working. But he wouldn't test me, not after what happened at lunch. If anything, people might have been teasing him. But like I said, he wasn't around. Principal Marshall was, though, and the first thing he said to me was that this better be an altercation-free day, followed by, and Mr. Simmons won't be joining us, he's suspended, which I have to say were the sweetest words I had heard in a while. I caught up with Dre in the hall for a few seconds. He assumed I was limping because of the fight, like battle wound, and was telling me how everyone was talking about how I mopped Brandon, even the people who got chocolate milk splashed on them. Bro, you like a hero, he said. Like you could run for class president right now and win if you were into that stuff. He threw his arm around me. Picture that. President Crenshaw. Whatever, man. I slipped under his arm, laughing to keep from wincing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Me, ghost, a hero? Until social studies. I wasn't really in the mood to learn about Alexander the Great, even though I did like the fact that he was called the Great, but what I was even less in the mood for was sitting in front of Shamika Wilson. Shamika was big, like huge. She had to be almost 6 feet tall in 7th grade, and she had a birthmark that covered half her light-skinned face in dark brown, like a comic book bad guy or something. But Shamika wasn't a mean girl. She was actually kind of cool. The only problem with her was that she was super silly, and she had a laugh as big as her body, but it was a real laugh. The kind that made her bend over, the kind that Coach was faking when I first met him. So when I sat down in front of her and bumped her desk, knocking one of her pencils on the floor, Shamika leaned over to pick it up, noticing my new and improved sneakers. And then came the thunder. It just came out of nowhere. And once she starts laughing, Shamika can't stop. And the worst part is that she can sort of pass her laugh around the room to everybody just because the sound of it is so outrageous. So if she laughs, everybody laughs. Imagine the sound a car makes when it's trying to start but can't. Now speed that sound up and crank the volume high enough to blow out the speakers in heaven. That's Shamika's laugh. What's so funny, Shamika? Mr. Hollow, the social studies teacher, asked, unamused. Would you care to share it with the rest of class? And that's pretty much when I started to panic. When I had that doctor moment I was talking about, when they cut somebody's arm off and realized it was a bad idea, my shoes equaled that arm. And now Mr. Hollow was basically asking to see my surgical screw-up. Oh, no. Please, Shamika, don't share it with the class. Don't share it with the class. Shamika couldn't get herself together long enough to even speak, so instead she just pointed at my feet. And that was all it took for like 60 other eyeballs, including Mr. Hollins, to laser beam me and my sneakers. I tried to cross my legs, then stuck my feet farther down in the seat, then pull my pant legs down, but the boat was out. There was nowhere to hide. In the next few seconds, with the whole class howling, it felt a gazillion times worse than Brandon's stupid jokes about my mom. Mr. Hollow finally shut it all down and went on about Alexander the Great, while I, Ghost the Worst, stared at the pages of my textbook, the stupid black words on the stupid white page all blurring together as solid black lines. I was literally shaking with embarrassment, like my insides had turned into ice that was cracking. I wanted to break the desk, or flip it over, scream, something, anything. Miraculously, the lunch bell rang. Everyone poured into the hallway, moving toward the cafeteria, some still talking about me, others playing and joking, slapping heads, jumping on backs, getting Mr. Baskin, the school security guard, all mad as usual, forcing him to leave his post to deal with the craziness. And knowing that Baskin wasn't where he was supposed to be, once I finally got to the double doors of the lunchroom, a lunchroom I felt was waiting to eat me, I kept walking, more like a sore walk run, straight out the front door of the school. I had never skipped class before. Never. I mean, I had my fair share of school problems, but I was never bold enough to just go. And I definitely didn't have the guts to walk out in the middle of the day, but now I didn't have a choice. I had to get out of there. Once I was outside, I broke out in a full-on run. I mean, straight up jetted, because I was so scared of getting caught, I couldn't even feel the pain in my legs anymore. Adrenaline overload. I ran and ran until I was far enough away from the school to not get caught. And then I turned down a busy street with a whole bunch of stores on it just because it seemed like the easiest place to blend in. I almost went into a wig shop just because I figured I might be able to grab a disguise. I mean, a wig could definitely do that, but nah. Then there was the fish market. I looked in the window. 3 short guys took a huge fish, big, like they were baby sharks or something, and hacked the heads off with giant knives. Wham! That was wild, but somehow I could relate to the fish. Actually, I could kind of relate to the men chopping the heads off the fish, too. Then came the sporting goods store, and that's when the best idea ever popped into my head. And we'll stop there.